WTFrank Sports. This is your host Lee, and I'm here. My co-host Chris, he's not here today. He's feeling under the weather, but he'll be back soon to give you guys what he calls straight facts. But today what I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about Kobe Bryant. So I'm recording this on Monday, January 25th. Tomorrow from the day that I'm recording this is Kobe's 1 year anniversary on when he passed away. Kobe Bryant was my second favorite basketball player of all time. Is my second favorite basketball player of all time. My favorite basketball player of all time is Reggie Miller. You know, I'm from Indiana, so I got to root for the hometown hero, Reggie Miller. He, did a lot in his career, especially for, Pacer fans everywhere. So Reggie Miller is my favorite basketball player of all time. But right below him is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is my second favorite basketball player of all time. And we can all think of some iconic moments that Kobe has had in his 20-year NBA career.
Can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you got to get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
It'll be Bob Gasol trying to find Kobe. And Kobe will get it for the win. Got it!
Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up at the buzzer. Banks it in! Oh, he banks in the three! And the Lakers win the game!
He had a lot of those game-winning shots. He was a very clutch player. One performance. So I used to hate Kobe Bryant early on, and part of it was because Game 4 is Indiana. In 2000, the Pacers played the Lakers in the NBA Finals. You know, the Pacers have been striving in the 90s to get past Jordan to try to make it to the finals. They finally made it to the finals in 2000. They were playing the Lakers. This is during the Lakers' first three-peat. Well, it was Game 4 in Indiana, and it was late in the fourth quarter. Indiana had the lead, and Shaquille O'Neal just fouled out. So I'm like, okay, this is a wrap. We got this game. Mamba. Kobe ended up taking over. And Kobe was on a bum ankle that game too. He ended up taking over, forced the game to overtime, and they ended up winning. The Lakers ended up beating the Pacers in overtime. So from there, the Lakers really controlled the series. But I remember after the game when Kobe was doing his interview, I just was sitting there and I was like, man, I can't stand this guy. But part of it was because he was beating my team. But I think that was, Kobe, taking the next level as far as that was their first championship. And Kobe had to step up when Shaquille O'Neal, who was the number one, ended up going out. So that was huge, and that was a step forward for Kobe Bryant. I think his best performance of all time might be the last game that he's ever played. I think Kobe Bryant's best performance of all time is that last game where he put up 60 points against the Utah Jazz. They were trailing late in the fourth quarter, and Kobe just went on a tear where he could not be stopped. They were double teaming him. He was driving, he was pulling up, he was shooting threes, he was doing everything. And the Lakers end up defeating the Jazz on his 60-point performance. Shaquille O'Neal said before the game he challenged him to get 50 points, and Kobe ended up getting 60 points, and that was in front of a star-studded crowd. Jack Nicklaus was there, Jay-Z, Shaquille O'Neal, all of his ex-players, Rick Fox, Derek Fisher, all of his ex-players or ex-teammates were there to cheer him on. And Kobe just put on a performance. And this was a hobbled Kobe. So, late in Kobe's career, he had the knee injury and the Achilles injury and was, trying to overcome those injuries. So this was a hobbled Kobe Bryant that put on a 60-point performance. He ended his career like no other players ended their career like that in NBA history. And he went out letting people know who he was, reminding people who he was, that he was Kobe Bean Bryant.
Jackson, yeah, baby. I said 40, but I'll take 56. I might even take 60.
Matt for three. Lakers will get a chance to take the lead, and look who has the ball. With half a minute to play, Bryant for the lead. Yes! Kobe Bryant gives the Lakers the lead.
I tell you something. This is, he was legendary before this game. This takes it to an absolute another level. An absolute another level.
A 60-point game for Kobe Bryant. Lakers up by three.
Don't give up any fouls.
Hayward all the way, misses. Taken by Randall. Bryant ahead with 7 seconds. Clarkson. No. The Lakers are going to win it. The Lakers are going to win it.
What a performance. What an exit for number 24. You couldn't have written this.
One thing that kind of made Kobe the Kobe that we know him as far as his post-NBA career started in 2008 in the Olympics. If you guys remember, that was the Redeem team. So that team, the U.S. basketball team, they didn't win gold in the prior Olympics, and that was something that, as far as American pride goes, as far as basketball, we couldn't let that happen. So they built together the Redeem team, and that team had LeBron James, it had Chris Bosh, it had Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul. It had all those guys, but Kobe Bryant was the elder statesman, and this was actually when Kobe was at the top of his game, that 2008 to 2011. Those were, I feel like Kobe was at the top of his game. But Kobe, he was the elder statesman, and this was before LeBron James got his rings. And so Kobe, one thing he did is he took on a mentor role, and that is what Kobe ended up becoming after he left the game. That was the beginning of him becoming a mentor. And so I think the 2008 Olympics was huge for molding who Kobe ended up becoming. And what did Kobe end up teaching those guys? He ended up teaching them the Mamba mentality. So what is the Mamba mentality? The Mamba mentality, that is where you strive to be the best version of your best. You're going to dig in, you're going to grind, you're going to do whatever it takes in order to reach your goals and reach success. That's the Mamba mentality. And that's what he was teaching to those players in the 2008 Olympics and even after that. That Mamba mentality started for Kobe Bryant at an early age. Kobe told a story of when he was 13, he had a kill list. He was ranked 57 in the nation, 13 or 14, where he was going to high school. He was ranked 57 in the nation. He had those 56 names, and they were on his kill list. And he was going to work his butt off until he passed up, each one. And as he passed up each one, he would cross them off of the list all the way until he got to number one. That was at the age of 13, 14 years old, where he had that mentality. Okay, I'm striving to be the best. That's my goal. That's pretty impressive. Jay Williams, you guys might know him. He played for Duke and then was drafted by the Bulls, number 2 overall, I believe it was. Ended up getting into the motorcycle accident in his second or third year and had to retire. Works for ESPN, does a great job on ESPN. But he tells a story of one day they were playing the Lakers. So he said, I'm going to go to the gym early and shoot around. He got to the gym and saw Kobe Bryant practicing. And he said Kobe Bryant was doing like hardcore moves, game time moves. And he's like, man, we got a game later on. He's like, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work out and let him, know what, that I'm coming here to play. So Jay Williams talked about how he was working out for like an hour. And he said he worked up a nice little sweat. He was ready for the game tonight. And he looks over, and Kobe Bryant is still doing those moves. And he said they got to the game tonight, and Kobe killed them. And he said after the game, he asked Kobe, why are you practicing so much before the game? And Kobe said, because I knew you were watching me. So Kobe wanted to let him know that you weren't going to outwork me. That's that Mamba mentality. That's what he was teaching to other people. So I have some quotes that I want to hit, some Kobe Bryant quotes that I feel like encapsulates who he was as a person. The first one is follow your passion first. Obviously, Kobe Bryant's first love was basketball, and that's something that he worked at. But even after basketball, he had to reset and say, okay, what is it that I love to do? What is it that I want to do? And for him, it was telling stories. And so that's what he ended up doing. And he was becoming great at that. As a matter of fact, before he passed away, he was working with Paulo Coelho. Paulo Coelho is the author of my favorite book, The Alchemist, if you're familiar with that book. Kobe Bryant they were gonna write some stories together. He had already published some stories for children to kind of give them motivation. He was also making videos. You know, he won an Oscar for his Dear Basketball short video. So that was his passion, was his new passion was storytelling. But follow your passion first. Number 2, outwork your potential. Outwork your potential. Kobe said that however good you think you can be a little bit better. However hard you think you can work a little bit harder. Always outwork your potential. And there's a funny Shaq story about Kobe just constantly working here.
So, Chris Webber brings it up during game 1 of the doubleheader, and now, Shaq, you got the story?
So this was his rookie year. He wasn't getting a lot of playing time, so, you know, shoot around is the time where you go over other guys' plays and you're supposed to be focused. So, Kenny, you be Dale Harris and just go over plays.
Okay.
And
I'll
Chuck,
turn face this way?
It don't matter. Just stay there. Just give over plays. So.
All right, guys. You know, here he is on the double and the pick and roll. And every pick and roll, what we're going to do is we're going to double the pick and roll. And then once he rolls to the basket, I want you to double down from the top. We're going to double down from the top on the other thing. And we're going to act. So that's what he was.
So what was Del Harris doing saying as this was going on?
We all just looking like, what is this kid doing? Like, what is it? Full speed, sweating, just pump faking and moving around so we're without a ball.
I remember you
talking to us. You can't call me. like just talking to us. We're like, me, Fisher, Fox, we're all looking up like.
And this is your rookie.
Yeah, he's my rookie. So we just let him be.
Did you say anything to him?
He's doing this before a playoff game with Phil Jackson. He was in the back doing the same thing.
The same thing, full
speed. And that's when he said, Jackson, this is when they were having their rip about who should get the ball down the stretch, give it to the big dog. And so the game was on the line, and Shaq, Phil said, who should I give it to? And Shaq was like, well, give it to the guy who dribbles without a basket. Let him take the last shot. He's like, he's ready.
Oh, my goodness.
So, like, all the moves you used to see him do on the court, like, he used to practice those moves.
With no ball.
Full speed.
Without a ball.
Number 4, this quote. I'm reflective only in the sense that I learn to move forward. I reflect with the purpose. So this is a story that Kobe tells where when he was a rookie, they were in the playoffs. The Lakers were playing the Utah Jazz, and the Jazz were up 3-1. So this was the closeout game for the Lakers. The Lakers were about to get closed out by the Jazz. But as they're coming down in the last 5 minutes of the game, Kobe shot 4 or 5 air balls, big time, including the one that could have pushed the game into overtime. He shot 4 or 5 air balls. But when he was reflecting on that, he reflected to get better. I'll let Kobe tell it.
You're walking around and it's embarrassing because you shot 5 air balls. Get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen? Got it. High school, year before, we played 35 games, max, right? Week in between, spaced out. Plenty of time to rest. In the NBA, it's back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I didn't have the legs. So you look at the shot, every shot was online. Every shot was online, but every shot was short. Right? I got to get stronger. I got to train differently. The weight training program that I'm doing, I got to tailor it for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. That was it.
Done.
So that reflecting, in order to get better, you're reflecting with the purpose. You know, you look back to see that's, and I'm a historian by profession, by craft. One thing you do is you look at the past in order to see how you can better the future. And that's what Kobe Bryant was doing. He was doing that on a basketball level, but then he was also teaching that for people outside of basketball. Reflect in the sense that you have a purpose. Reflect to get better. Look at the past in order to better yourself moving forward, in order to better the situation moving forward. And this last quote, I feel like, is Kobe Bryant post-basketball. This is what makes Kobe Bryant special. The most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they want to do. I feel like that quote sums up Kobe Bryant. But Kobe Bryant had to learn that. Because when Kobe first came into the league, he came off as arrogant. He came off as being only about himself. His teammates reportedly found him to be annoying and aloof and didn't really talk to them that much. Phil Jackson wrote that he didn't listen to anybody. This was after Phil Jackson coached him during that first three-peat. He said that Kobe didn't listen to anybody. Michael Jordan said that he was annoying, and Shaquille O'Neal. We all know about the reported division between Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, even though the media may have made it out to seem worse than what it was, but they did have a rift there for some time. Kobe wasn't perfect. Kobe was imperfect. But one thing he said he wanted to do was he wanted to strive to be the best. And for a time, Kobe was the best. In order to get to that level of the best, Kobe had to defeat himself. Kobe had to learn to control his body. He had to learn to control his fears and his worries and his doubts that he had for himself and the doubts that he had for other people, his teammates as well. And that's what he did. Every single person that quote unquote had beef or division with Kobe Bryant ended up earning their respect. Michael Jordan called Kobe Bryant his little brother. Phil Jackson went back to the Lakers to help them win more championships and then ended up writing the foreword to Kobe Bryant's book. Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant ended up making up. Kobe introduced Shaq at his statue unveiling at Staples Center. Shaq spoke at Kobe Bryant's funeral. And as a matter of fact, the morning that Kobe ended up passing away, he was texting with Shaq's son just to check up on him to see if he was okay. Kobe was beloved by his teammates. All of his former teammates. You had Shaquille O'Neal. I talked about how he came around and they had they considered each other brothers. You got Robert Ory, Derek Fisher, Rick Fox, all of these guys, Metta World Peace, Matt Barnes, Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom. Pau Gasol, as a matter of fact, wrote the foreword to Kobe Bryant's book. You had Phil Jackson and Pau Gasol. One wrote the introduction, one wrote the foreword. I can't remember which is which. Lamar Odom, Nick Young, even Shmus Parker, who, they had a lot of division, Kobe and Shmus Parker. Even Shmus Parker came around as far as, giving Kobe his respects. So shout out to Shmus Parker for being a big man and dropping that and realizing that, the two of them, they did end up starting for 2 years in that backcourt together. So it was them against the world, like Shmus Parker said in one interview. But all of his teammates, his former teammates, and everyone that he's had at least public division with has come around and has earned his respect. And that's because he learned that he could make his teammates better without alienating them. That's something that Kobe Bryant had to learn. It took him a while to become the player who can make the people around him better and to be a good teammate, somebody that they wanted to hang around. He had to learn that. And him learning that resulted in a career unlike any others. He had 7 trips to the NBA Finals, 5 titles out of those 7 trips, 2 Finals MVPs, 1 regular season MVP, 18 All-Star games, 15 All-NBA team, he was a 12-time All-NBA defensive team. He was a 2-time scoring champ, and he had 2 jerseys retired by the Lakers, number 8 and number 24. When Kobe Bryant retired, he retired as a 3rd all-time leading scorer in NBA history, only behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Karl Malone. The night before Kobe Bryant passed away, LeBron James actually passed up Kobe Bryant in the all-time scoring list. Kobe Bryant's last tweet was a tweet to LeBron James congratulating him on passing him up and moving the game forward. And that's what encompasses why so many people loved Kobe. Why so many people felt like a close friend died that fatal Sunday. Because he was inspiring. He inspired athletes of all ages, in all sports. He was also inspiring outside of sports, off the court. He wrote books for children. He also created camps for young athletes to try to hone their skills and get better. He created and funded after-school programs. He believed that the greatest thing we can do is to help the next generation get better.
Once upon a time, there was a young basketball player who had dreams of becoming one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He worked day and night, every day, for years and years and years and years and years. And as time went on, 20 years had passed. And he felt that he had accomplished all that he set out to accomplish. But what he come to realize is that the goal that he set out initially of becoming the greatest of all time was a very fickle one. And what he realized that the most important thing in life is how your career moves and touches those around you and how it carries forward to the next generation.
Kobe Bryant led by example. Let's all take the lesson that Kobe Bryant taught us and help those behind us and the younger generation continue to get better and to improve. That's when we'll have the ultimate sense of accomplishment. That's when we're most at peace. And it's that lesson and that inspiration that makes Kobe Bryant the ultimate legend. And we all know that legends never die.
Kobe, 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 Kobe.
What can I say? Mamba out.